This was, for the most part, qualitatively similar to ingested 5-MeU with the harmaline. The trip was far different, in terms of duration and measurable degrees of hallucination, but the end point, the peak, appeared the same. This method produces a slower onset, with almost no fear, far calmer than even similar dosages smoked. The visual disturbances accompanied by the smoking method weren't prevalent, but the terrible taste and physical jitteriness were. Music was pleasant, though I found myself uncomfortable, unable to find a place of refuge in which to slip away into an altered state of consciousness. I opted to write it out, and this brought to my attention the trippy nature of the 5-MeU. There was a very real effect, though I was uncertain as to why. The side effect of the insufflation makes the method somewhat undesirable, it burns, tastes bad, and is generally uncomfortable. On the other hand, the trip is far more manageable than the smoking route. Due to the mild nature of the trip, we opted to smoke around 10 mg some time later, and I was immediately taken to the DMT hyperspace I had seen only briefly earlier in the night, but in greater detail with the harmaline. This state is clearly replicable, so I will attempt to define it. Static-filled closed-eye visuals, with subjective patterns. There were colors, at least red and blue, and the combination of the two seemed to produce a white glow, as the colors of the spectrum combined to make white. The body became numb. I can recall in each instance the sensation of my sinuses opening, and my mouth as well, as if I were simply in a state of total physical relaxation. This built to a complete dissociation from the body, and the visuals became the only noticeable sensation. While emotions persist, happiness and well-being were prevalent, though this faded as well, and the endpoint was one of awe and amazement, as the realization surfaced that what I was seeing was devoid of physical source. Unfortunately, this is the extent of such a low dose. I wanted to go further, but felt that continued low doses would yield similar effects, and I hadn't the nerve to up the dose. The significance of this experience is that it was shared into its deeper levels with RP, who concurred on almost every part of my description, and I with his. We agreed that the essence of the occurrence is the elimination of sense data down to a few lingering points, but we were both unable, for the most part, to get rid of those last few points. RP suggested, and I agreed, that each of the points, in that state, represent entire experiences rather than the individual senses, and it is as if your consciousness is being bombarded by an array of tons of experiences, leaving you to interpret at will. Both of us saw a circular object in the middle of our inner visual field. He referred to it as a spinning marble wheel, I as the center of a spiral, but both illustrated it as a central concentration of the points of perception described above. It also came to our attention that loss of consciousness passing out may be the initial cause of the total out-of-body effect, but neither of us had taken a high enough quantity to achieve this goal. Interested psychonauts note, the value of this experience was matched by the uncomfortable nasal/sinus sensations produced by insufflation. Repetition would be contingent upon our forgetting this effect.